Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So here's my review for episode 19. Obviously this will contain spoilers for the full episode. I do also want to say right away that this episode actually was a pretty good episode, especially when you focus on the Eugene, Rosita, and just like all of those other characters, right? Like more of the main cast that's like not the main cast, right? Like they're the main cast, I guess, but like they're not the core characters like Daryl or Carol or Maggie, right? This episode I thought really focused on those characters in a really great way. And it actually really felt like we got the final scene between two characters here. So I was kind of, watching this episode through that lens. I actually really enjoyed some of those I guess just those character scenes, right? Where they just sort of talk about whatever. And man, Eugene is in a lot of trouble. So anyways, before going any further, obviously make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. So I did make some notes going into the episode. I actually did that last night on Twitch. So if you haven't followed me on Twitch yet, I do streams on there and we talk about Walking Dead stuff and all that. So I hope to see you guys there on my Twitch streams. If you do want to join or follow the Twitch channel, the link for that is in the description of this video. But yeah, so I made some predictions. I said Elijah will die, Lydia has a chance, Oceanside's fate will be revealed at the end of the episode, our characters break away from the Commonwealth, Eugene gets captured, Pamela visits Lance, and it's bad for Lance. So obviously I got like half of that right. Elijah never died, Lydia never died, Oceanside's fate was not revealed at all. Our characters, I guess, do technically kind of break away from the Commonwealth, but not really, like they're about to, right? So I was technically not right about that. Like that didn't happen in this episode. Eugene does get captured, and it seems like Pamela and Lance, their relationship definitely, based off the episode 20 trailer anyways, yeah, things are going to be very, very different there. And I'm actually, I have a whole new sort of view on how some of that Rick stuff could come out with the CRM and all that. And I'll talk about that in my episode 20 trailer. Maybe you already saw it because that video might come up before this one. I'm not too sure how I'm going to release it, but it seems like Lance and Daryl are working together. And I think if Lance is actually committed, at least for his own survival, to working with Daryl to take down the Milton family, that's where I think some of that CRM stuff could come out. It might not be from Connie like we were thinking, right? Like it literally might be from him. So yeah, anyways, let's talk about the episode. I'll save all that for that video there. But the whole plot here is Pamela Milton wants Eugene. And this episode really felt like it was Eugene's goodbye episode. Now, I'm not saying he's going to die, but it really kind of felt like this was Eugene's last big episode here. And his relationship with, if you think about it, Eugene is kind of the central figure of a lot of characters, right? Eugene has a very special relationship with Princess, has a very special relationship with Gabriel and with Rosita and Max as well, obviously. And so he's kind of the connection to everyone, right? And so it's kind of interesting to pick him as the one who gets in trouble for this because it affects everyone around him so well. And I say so well because, if you're a writer trying to come up with a story here, he's the perfect character here, to sort of focus on this. And they really do focus on his courage. And it's kind of hilarious because there's that one scene where like Eugene was just like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna have to fight Daryl to get through him. But like Daryl's just like, no, you can go, it's fine. And Daryl's like, he was just gonna let him go because Daryl knows that Eugene's not gonna go. So again, this really focused a lot on Eugene's courage. And it's funny because in the end, he actually shows a lot of courage. And that's one thing that obviously throughout the entire series, he sort of struggled with. And you kind of see it throughout the episode, or in the beginning of the episode anyways. Daryl seems to be a little annoyed with Eugene. And a lot of it is because of what him and Max did. Things were a little bit more peaceful. But then they went to go start stuff, and now the Commonwealth is after them. Now they're dealing with this, and now they have another problem out of nowhere when they could have just, laid low and things could have just been as is. But as we heard, we heard from Princess when she told her story of growing up and stuff, she just doesn't really want to live like that. She doesn't want to live like, oh yeah, well, I have a roof over my head, so I should just be thankful. Like, no, she's against that. And Mercer and Daryl, they're characters that like, they sort of, I guess they know what it's like they get what it's like. And they don't have that same courage to actually go and fight back. Yeah, if you look at them, they're tough, but like, they almost don't have that same sort of courage to want to make a change and to want to make things different, right? And better for everybody. They just want to stay as is. And it seemed like Daryl was pretty upset with Eugene over that. And also Mercer as well, being very upset with Max and just all of that. So again, Eugene, I think, was the perfect character to focus on here. Eugene really, man, like his courage in this episode, he really just like, he struggled with it. And it makes sense that now is the time to struggle with this because obviously he has Max now. So there's this whole thing there where he actually does have like a real connection to the Commonwealth. He doesn't want to just leave unless Max can make it out as well. And so he does struggle here. And again, Pamela Milton wants to make an example to all. And so she chose Eugene Porter to be arrested here. That's why I really like the story overall, because it just seemed like every scene that Eugene was in, especially the scene with Rosita, was the last scene of them together. I'm not saying Eugene's going to die, but it does feel like certain characters around him might, especially, you know, obviously I've said that Rosita, I think, is going to die. It doesn't mean that's going to happen, but you just really get that vibe there, you know, especially like when you go back to season 9, episode 3, I believe, that was Carol and Rick's last scene together, obviously until whenever they reunite in the future. But that was their last scene together, I guess, on The Walking Dead, right? So it was a pretty big deal, and you could tell in the scene, like, Andrew Lincoln had a hard time holding it together, you know, Melissa McBride as well. It was just a very emotional scene. When you watch this scene between Eugene and Rosita, it really felt like it was just really hard for them to keep it together. Now, I'm not saying they're not going to have a scene together in the future. They might. They may actually have a scene together in the future. But it's not going to be a scene like that where they're both just like together and talking about whatever. And you can really see that friendship, right? So yeah, I got goosebumps watching the scene because I kept thinking, you know, after this episode, we have, I guess, 5 more episodes left. Man, this really could be the end here, right? Like, this could actually be their final scene. Now, another storyline that we got, obviously, was some of the stuff with the variant walkers and whatnot. Yeah, obviously I got a lot of that wrong. Lydia and Elijah, they're totally fine. And I will say that kind of sucks a little bit. We'll see where they go. There was actually a lot of scenes that happened in the Comic-Con trailer that weren't shown in this episode. And some of the scenes that I thought where it really does seem like Elijah does die, or Lydia, it's one of the two characters. None of that was in this episode. So I found that so weird because most of the encounter with the variant walkers was at nighttime. But a lot of the stuff that we saw from that trailer with Elijah and Lydia didn't happen in this episode. So obviously something is still going to happen. And I still do believe that one of those two characters could die just because of that one scene from the trailer. It obviously wasn't in episode 19, but at some point it's going to happen. But let's actually talk about the variant walkers. So very, very cool. I'll say, you know, definitely seeing them, that was so cool. When the walker grabbed Lydia's staff, it made everything so, I guess, just different. Like, it actually just felt so different seeing that play out in that way. Because if walkers can do that, then yeah, you literally can't just use any weapon that you want. Like, you kind of have to rely on knives or machetes, right? You can't rely on staffs like that because they're just going to grab it. And that's the thing with that weapon. Like, there's too long of a reach. You can grab anywhere and you're not going to hurt your hand, right? Like, whereas with a knife, a walker tries to grab that. Like, I mean, they don't really feel pain, but obviously you can either just cut off the hand or whatever. With a staff, it's easy for a walker to grab. So like it does sort of reduce the amount of weapons that you're able to use here. And we saw that. Not only that, you know, the walker actually grabbed a rock at one point and was going to hit Jerry with it. Like, it was actually going to do that to him instead of like bite him or whatever. So just totally different walkers here, totally different zombies. Jerry, Aaron, you know, I guess Lydia, kind of everyone, I guess, sort of believed that it was the Whisperers. And then after, when Aaron does kill that walker and then takes the walker's face off, I guess, you do see that, no, it's not a Whisperer. These are actually walkers. And hey, also the scene was afterwards, right? Like, I was saying that, I mean, for a while now, I was saying when Aaron does tell that story where he's like, you know, I've heard of stories of these walkers that can open doorknobs or open doors and climb walls. I was saying he better not say that before the episode. It better be afterwards, because that's just too convenient that to like out of nowhere that night those walkers show up. But it does happen afterwards, so that was kind of cool. The walkers definitely added a new level of threat, and it's kind of crazy because the walkers that Daryl's going to be dealing with are just so different. They're way more terrifying because they can run and everything. Like, that's actually going to be so much fun. Now, I will say I wanted a lot more from it. The scene did seem to happen pretty quick. I really thought this episode was going to focus a lot on this new variant of walker. So I was a little disappointed with that. You know, they really saved it mostly for the end of the episode, sort of, I guess, the last third of the episode, quarter to a third of the episode. I really wanted it to be a lot more than that, and we didn't get that. These walkers, I think, are still going to be around. They still could play a role in the story here, so I don't know if this is necessarily the end, because the way it was done, it didn't really seem like this was actually the end of this walker. It's just that they ran into this new new type of walker, and they dealt with it, but now they're continuing on their journey to Oceanside. So I do think what's actually going to happen in the next couple of episodes is we will see these walkers again. I think it makes a lot of sense. How can you just completely ignore it? If they do completely ignore it, then yeah, definitely I will be pretty upset with it. But yeah, again, I was disappointed with the lack of variant walkers. I wanted to see a lot more here. I thought there would be some character deaths here, and there was really nothing. I will say, the talk of King Jerry, that made me a little worried for Jerry. There was just a lot of talk of that, and it just kind of felt like, oh man, that seems like some foreshadowing right there. I don't know, like I don't really have Jerry on my death predictions list, but you never know. But now the characters are off to Oceanside. I don't know if episode 20 really deals with that, but I guess episode 21 could. Around there, obviously we will get the fate of Oceanside. That'll be revealed. Though I just think that they're kind of waiting too long with it. So I hope it happens in 20. I just don't know. Like it's kind of weird just with where we're at right now with the story. It feels like there's a couple of things that need to have happened already. And so I don't know when these things are going to play out. I think things are going to take a turn here right away in terms of it feeling more like the end game. I think in the next 3 episodes for sure, like 20, 21, 22. Once we get through those 3, I think things are going to really feel like it's the end. I just hope that within those next 2 to 3 episodes, they can sort of wrap up some of this trial of Eugene stuff, some of the stuff with Oceanside, and just sort of wrap up a lot of that, even some stuff with the Civic Republic plot, I guess not wrap it up, but just sort of introduce that idea and then sort of start working towards that end game, which I know it's going to feel like the end game, but it's also not going to feel like the end game. So, but yeah, so in terms of the variant walkers, really cool scene. I actually really liked all of that. I think that the lack of deaths there really did suck, but maybe they're building to something here. As for the whole storyline at the Commonwealth, yeah, I mean, again, it felt like Eugene's big goodbye episode. It really felt like you could title this episode The Trial of Eugene, or Eugene's Courage, or The Courage of Eugene, or something like that. Like, this could actually result in his death, right? Like, that's essentially what Eugene is doing. When Eugene gave himself up there, that is essentially, like, he's going to get a trial. It's not going to be a fair trial, though. So Eugene could technically die from all of this. And it's definitely going to be something that's a little, well, I mean, I'm excited to see where that goes. And then obviously there's some stuff with Pamela Milton here. Man, I got really crazy governor vibes, like when she kept her son alive. I know she's the governor, but it just really reminded me of the governor, and when he kept his daughter alive, it just sort of, I don't know, I got a similar feeling there. It was really cool. I did really like that. But also the episode ends with Rosita captured, or it seems like it anyways. And then obviously we've seen the trailer that Daryl is saying that a lot of his people are being taken away. And so this is where things get very, very interesting. And I'll talk about this in my episode 20 trailer. I'm really curious on if some of these people here, like the Alexandrians or Hilltopians or whatever, Hilltoppers, I guess, if they're all about to be traded to the Civic Republic, right? Because for some reason, a lot of them disappeared. We have no idea where they went. But if you actually focus on that trailer, I actually wonder if that's where they're going, because this could be something that Pamela Milton just does, right? Like, okay, here, take these people away. They'll make an example out of Eugene, but that's basically it. So yeah, when you look at that trailer there, I actually wonder if Judith, a lot of the other characters that went missing, if they're actually going to be taken to the Civic Republic, like that's where they're going. And so that's why you see Lance say, well, I know exactly where they're going. So I wonder if there's about to be a pretty big reveal here. But anyways, I'm going to leave it here. My review for this episode was, I think it's on par with episode 17. I think that, episode 17, I know was very action-packed. It was a lot of fun to watch the episode, but not a lot happened in that episode. I think most of the fun part of 17 is where it leads in 18, because 18 kind of resolved a huge part of that story. 19, I think, introduced a lot of interesting elements, but I still think it's sort of, for me anyways, it's on par with 17. I still think 18 is my favorite one out of the 3. But anyways, I'm gonna leave it here. Definitely post your thoughts down below. Hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.